Hello, Aurora lovers. I'm Dale Bone from Dale Bone Imaging. This is episode 8. How can I predict the clouds? Clouds are the bane of astronomy and are the main obstacle to seeing the northern lights. I use windy.com to look at the cloud forecasts as well as the current satellite pictures. Windy.com has both apps and a website. Let's take a look at the website. Okay, let's take a look at windy.com. This is the website. The app looks very similar to this. The controls are very similar, just a little bit different based on the different form factors. By default, it will try and put you in the center of the map. It'll try and geolocate you based on your IP address, I believe. I'm in Saskatoon, so it's bringing it up centered on Saskatchewan. By default, it shows you the wind based, well, what a surprise. It's called windy.com, and the first thing it shows you is the wind. If I go over here on the side, there's this menu of all the options, and if I click on clouds, it'll show me the current cloud map. It also continues to show the wind, but this is the default cloud map model. There's a number of models, but you can go in here and see where it's going to be cloudy, rain or snow. The precipitation is the bluer colors. And then along the bottom you can just scroll. So what I usually do is just go to midnight and take a look and see what the conditions are going to be for midnight. Not very good for Saskatoon tonight at midnight. It's going to be partially cloudy with rain. Looks like rain coming in perhaps a little bit later. There is this nice clear band through sort of central Saskatchewan, and then clouds further north. And you can scale out or back. And you can see that it gets lighter, and there's a gradient here. It gets lighter, and if you just click somewhere, it's a little confusing how this works, but if you click, or on the phone app you just touch, it'll open up this marker, and then you can drag it around. What are you doing? Okay, I can drag it around. On the app, the marker stays still, and and you move the map around. On the website, you just drag the marker around, which is fine. So at midnight around Saskatoon, 45%, 50% cloud cover, dropping off to mostly clear, 0% clouds in there, and then basically 100% in this heavily white area. So my decision is it's going to be good conditions tonight, I think, but well, not great conditions. So great conditions for Aurora, mediocre conditions for Aurora, and there's going to be a lot of clouds. That's probably not going to be a good night for me to go out. If I was up in this area, sure, it might be worth going out and taking a look. If there was supposed to be an amazing Aurora display, I might consider whether I would drive up into this area. Now, that's at least an hour drive at this scale. You got to be fairly certain. If you're right here, and all you need to do is drive this little ways to get out from that cloud layer, yeah, then maybe you want to do it. Now, that puts the clouds in the north, which is a little problematic, but still doable. L'Orange, maybe you drive south. And then if you can see whether that's going to be good strategy by looking a little bit later. The clouds are going to converge, so maybe it's not worth a 2-hour drive, an hour one way and an hour back for a short view. That's sometimes the downside of clouds. But if you have this hard edge here, sometimes you can drive away. I wouldn't do it based on the model. I would do it based on the actual satellite data. So you can go up here, radar and satellites, and you can say satellite. That looks considerably different than the forecast, doesn't it? Although we were looking at, sorry, let's backtrack. Let's go back to the clouds and look at the current clouds forecast. So this red line is the forecast. Okay, so it's closer, but there's certainly some variation there. So certainly at night, I always look at the satellite data, and you can go down here and it'll animate the last, say, 2 hours. Once it loads, it takes a little while to load all those maps, and you can see how the clouds are moving, and you can see, you know, if it was close to midnight, I'd be going, okay, yeah, Saskatoon, let's go out. It's looks like it's going to stay clear, relatively clear for quite a while. There might be some clouds moving in later, but in the short term, it looks pretty good. That's when I'd make a decision about whether I was willing to drive. I would, you know, start looking at it based on the cloud model and then make a final decision based on the satellite map. And, you know, you can make a decision if you want to go north or south, right? Because depending on whether there's likely to be clouds in that particular direction. One final thing. This is a European model. There's a number of different forecast models. I find this is fairly accurate, but if you start switching models, that's fairly similar. When they agree, then you can sort of trust that the forecasts are fairly reliable, but sometimes they vary wildly, especially if it's sort of partial cloud covers. When there's like a solid wall of clouds, they are fairly consistent. But when it's, you know, partial clouds, they often show considerable differences. So you can look at those, but really what you want is, it'll give you an idea if it's going to be clear and whether you should get excited or not. And then you can look at the satellite maps. Sometimes it shows that it's going to be almost completely cloudy, and it turns out to be really clear, or relatively clear. If you have a really good display, you can see northern lights through partial clouds, but if it's not a good display and it's going to be lower on the horizon, clouds just wreck everything, because they lower on the horizon, you're looking through more of the clouds and it'll be very hard to see. I was going to say something else about clouds. Yeah, sometimes if you're at the edge of the cloud layers, you can see out. If you've got a clear view to the north, then you can see out from underneath the cloud layer and see clouds on the horizon. But yeah, I find this is a good tool. It's very good, very similar as an app. At some point I'll probably do another video on how to use the app, but it's very similar. These models are buried down in this little drop-down menu. That's the main difference. Windy is a great way to get cloud information. It's certainly not the only way, but it is detailed and easy to use. Remember that a forecast is just a forecast, and the different forecast models can vary significantly. At night, check the satellite map rather than the forecast map, because it will be more accurate. This information can help you determine if it's worth going hunting. With that, please check out episode 9, How Can I Predict the Moon? I'm wishing you clear skies and happy hunting.